Okay, well, let's start this best-of-3 quarterfinal matchup in the bottom left-hand side with the red Protoss player. This is Trap, taking on the blue Zerg in the top right-hand side. Scarlett taking out Special to get to this round of 8. And Trap is going to open already with the hatchery block. So no natural for you, Scarlett. Take that third base location instead. That's exactly what you will begin to do, as this probe just sticks around over here, and then we'll go double check that there is indeed a... Well, for a moment wanted to go check, but also wants to make sure there's nothing going to come and take the natural if he goes to check. So now checks, does indeed see the third hatchery already starting, or the third hatchery location being started on. So knows that's where the commitment to this is going to be. Scarlett is a tricky player to play against because she plays a lot of proxy hatches, so sometimes if that drone moves out to look to take the third location, she might actually just be building a hatchery across the map, and then if you don't know about that, you're generally in some trouble. So Trap, make sure to double check that does in fact manage to see it. As this probe pulls back, gets reset onto this little mineral patch here. And we're just going to be seeing these drones are going to jump their way into the gas. So Scott already mining a gas and hatch gas and pool is going to be our overall setup. We'll see what she does with it. Again, Scarlett has been playing fairly aggressively in ZvP, but not only aggressively. She has played some matches as of late that have been a bit more macro-focused, especially when she played against, I believe, Zest in a ESL Open Cup Korea a couple of weeks ago in the semifinals, and she took Zest down then. She didn't play, you know, all that like proxy hatch every game sort of setup. So some of those games, or one of those games, definitely went a little bit longer. As we do have the probe here back out down the right-hand side. We do have our warp gate started from Trap. As that's going to be setting up in a gateway, just chronoing out the first adept to get across the map here. And looks like Trap will try and apply some pressure with that, or at least see what's going on. No surprise here to see on the back of the hatchery block the Twilight Council being placed. Already getting that Twilight Council up and running. There's that probe all the way up into the natural. We'll see this hatchery just building up there. The Adept taking some damage as Lings and the Queen already on this. The Adept then shading back out. Am I blind? This Adept, wow, I just felt like this Adept was so far back across the map already. Well, Adept gets back into the natural expansion as we'll see a gateway building up. Robotics facility in the main base of Traps already on the way as well, so no surprises there. Exactly as we expected. This is a Glaives opener. I was just so shocked that this Adept was just like so far back across the map. I was like, wait a second, did it shade forward and I'm looking in the wrong place on the minimap? No, I'm just blind. I'm terrible with the minimap. No wonder I suck when I play. I honestly, when I look at the minimap, sometimes I'm like, where's that? I know there's a Widow Mine drop on the map. Where the... I just can't see the red dot. And then by the time I see the red dot, I'm like, oh, it's killing all the workers. Shit. Yikes. Definitely a few yikes moments in my minimap career. Let's see this next. It's going to finish up a probe. A couple probes on the way out actually as the Stalker and Adept's just going to fill up the gap in the wall off. This Resonating Glaive's just over halfway done as the Overlord of Scarlet sitting down in that corner. As the two Lingers are just going to be running through across over to the right-hand side. A couple Creep Tumors are just going to be spreading out. And she's going to go... Trap is going to go for the Dark Shrine follow-up. So... already seeing Trap just being very aggressive, right? This first set of Adepts and then the DTs to come up very quickly after. Scarlett is making a lair, so detection is on her list of things she will get up here. And she's going for a very different defense against this in general. Lings and a Spine, but no Roaches yet. Now the 5 Roaches do you build. Okay, it's not that different. I just already expected some Roaches to be eventually on the way. This kind of heavier Ling count defense initially is something we've seen more of as of late. You know, that heavy, you know, initially you go kind of heavy on the defense with the Lings, and then the Roaches pop out, and it allows you to do this off of, you know, a few extra drones. And it works well because then you have the Lings up to for the mobility, so you can actually threaten the Adepts if they do go for shades elsewhere. The Adept shade in here, obviously this is the amount of Adepts where the Lings can't really fight. 12 Adepts is the kind of the number where you tick over at, and that's why you really do need roaches. But it keeps the adepts busy while the roaches were out of position. However, now the adepts are over to the third base, and this is where it gets really bad for Scarlett, because now she's just constantly chasing the next adept shade. And during all of this, I mean, DT should be about to build in a moment or two, and they are something which I don't think there's any preparation for. Yes, there's a lair. There's no Overseer morphed in, so 4 DTs just run at this third base now. Then Scarlett's going to lose a third hatchery, on top of the fact that she's already lost 15, 16 drones, and is in a very weak position in terms of the economy. As those roaches do get the adepts, so the adepts go down. A few DTs, as mentioned, will warp in, and they are, well, they start to make their way to that hatchery, then they turn around. Queen's down the bottom. Prism gets pushed back as Lings and roaches of Scarlett join up together. We're just going to catch those couple of adepts quite easily. An Immortal Dark Templar Nexus. Old building here from Trap as he pulls back down to the bottom left side. 2 more Archons just on the way up with the charge as well for Trap. Actually, he just really didn't use the DTs at all. I guess he saw the lair, but there really wasn't an Overseer until just now, so really didn't try and take advantage of the fact he had those DTs. Because I do feel like Scarlett was in a position where she wasn't immediately ready for them. Because she was so busy running around after adepts, yes, she had the potential to make an Overseer, but the DT still would have gotten something done in that time. Of course, maybe Trap just sees the lair and doesn't quite pick up on the fact there's no Overseer, or thinks it's just somewhere he doesn't see it. As due to see, the Archons are going to be able to pick off the Overlord already, so Overlord will go down with the +1 missile upgrade from Scarlett. So on the Evolution Chamber, the Archons coming over, and the roaches take some damage. The roaches will take a few hits there, and the Prism back up to the top side as our Baneling Nest from Scarlett is on the way in the third base. So getting that Bane Nest up and running. The extra drones are going to be finishing soon as well. +1 attack is going to be finishing up on the Forge. So you have +1 attack finishing, you have that charge bar to complete. Really feels as though it's around the time where Trap can get aggressive if he would like to move across the map. You know, he's got all of these upgrades coming in. He had a very good early game killing a lot of drones. It's worth mentioning that Scarlett did recover from that drone loss quite well in terms of worker count, but it's this spike of eco that she lost when she had to pull all the drones around the different bases that is something that she doesn't really get over at any point. And of course, yeah, she kind of was okay because she'd already built enough units so then she could focus on just rebuilding drones, but yeah, that little spike of eco, you can just see it, right? She's not quite past that 66 3-base worker marker because her 4th base isn't ready yet. You know, her army supply doesn't really reflect someone in a super strong position, considering this is a lot of roaches here. She's only a little bit of army supply ahead. That said, she is stacking money for the Spire, so she is waiting for the Mutalisks. And that obviously is something which then, you know, her money gets spent and she has a little bit more to work with, so we'll see how that goes as Trap finds another Overlord. Obviously, the mutas in general can be a fun way to get damage done. I do worry the fact there's already cannons and mineral lines, though, and it's going to be... Okay, it's going to be 8 Mutalisks. She got a little bit more gas up before the Spire actually completed, so 8 meters, okay. I can get behind 8 Mutalisks. I feel like 8 Mutalisks could definitely work, as Lings and Roaches and Ravagers will come down the right. These couple Queens of Scarlet are going to move away to the left-hand side as well, as we see some more creep cleaned out by the Warp Prism and Archons. Spying again a few shots off, a few Lings already start to run in. The Queens will get back there to push the Archons away. A couple of creep teamers will place down. And just the rest of this from Scarlet, running out down to the south side of the map. Picture Bane's getting ready to go, and more probes. Going down as the meters arrive across the map here. Storm drops, we just take a little bit more damage. It's going to be seeing a high finishing in a moment or two. Scarlett maxed out. Let's see if she can take a fight. She's got the Banes and the Bane speed, obviously, against the Storm. I was just going to see these couple of extra Archons setting up right now, so morphing these in. There's one to come in. Storm gets dropped again. We do just have a couple of Banes over here. Got a cannon. Lings on the counterattack. We'll find an Immortal too. I mean, all of this little counterattack play by Scarlett's very cool and very nifty. She still has to deal with this army on the front, though, including getting rid of these High Templar with all of those storms. The Banes! Oh my god, the Banes get through the storms! That's going to be the High Templar's gone, so that's it. That's all the storms in this fight. The Scarlett then have enough to just fight this Immortal Archon army. We're just moving through. There's still a lot of Archons left over. Extra Banes are showing up, though. Just need some of these Banes to maybe get the Zealots, and that's a cancelled Warpin. Oh my goodness. Well, Trap has to reset that Warpin, but now Corrosive Files are going to get the Prism, not before the Warpin is done, but in time to maybe deny any further attempts. Roaches and Ravagers continuing to pull back. I don't know if Scarlett quite has enough to properly defend this. She's killing probes, across the map as Stalkers get warped in. Maybe if she can defend this army, she's in a really good spot, and I think she's just about there with Lings that are reinforcing. On the way, coming up soon. She's losing a few drones, obviously. A few Lings already were run in. And they're just going to be going after this Greater Spire, so Greater Spire is going to get picked off in the end. The Mutas are going to jump back in on top of these probes. 15 workers down. As the Spire another one will build from Scarlett. So she loses her Greater Spire, she loses her tech. These Mutas are doing so much damage across the map. That's the big thing here, I think. The fact that Scarlett's obviously been able to keep some pressure across the map during all of this as well. And obviously those initial High Templar having to morph to Archons hurting as well. The rest of the Roaches and Lings down the right-hand side. A couple of extra DTs from Trap, really making use of that Dark Shrine. As Dark Temple already going to this bottom right-hand base, and another DT pressing through. Just going to see this being caught. And then this one DT bottom right gets picked up once again. Spire about halfway done from Scarlett. And the Mutas are just going to go and chase this Wall Prism down, though. And this is what the Mutas are so very good at. And I think Scarlett's kind of got this one. Not in the bag, but she's definitely got a bit of a lead that she's working with now. And the new Spire about to finish. Going to that Greater Spire again. That's the biggest thing, I guess, right? That Trap has basically kept Scarlett on this same composition now for the length of time it takes her to rebuild the Greater Spire. Otherwise, she was very ready to be moving off of this and into something else as the probes pull. The Templar don't even use their storms here, just sends the Archon, so it maintains the energy. 6 workers, a few Zealots fall. The probes go back. The Mutas should not really stop the fight with these Archons. And Scarlett just staying around that 40 supply advantage. I think the thing is, though, as well, do you really want to fight a Scarlett versus you can actually just sit and wait? Because if you sit and wait, you really do just get to Broodlords. And does Trap have a way to deal with Broodlords? His way of dealing with Broodlords is storming and blinking Stalkers, and that's not really reliable. So that's definitely something of a problem, as we'll see. We just want to come back in here. Got the cannon in the mineral line with the previous Banes. Actually going to fly by into the third base or so. There are Banelings already trying to make their way in again, but they don't do much. Still only +1 melee as well, so it does take 2 Banes to kill probes at this point. Hungry and Ravager back over the right-hand side. The rest of the Lings are going to re-engage in. The Archons taking a bit more damage. Some storms across the front here. And the Lings taking a lot more damage as well as the High Templar are coming through. Stalkers will blink forward, and Trap is going to get a lot of kills there. I mean, just some good storms across the board, and that's the kind of flimsiness of Scarlett's army, as she is now on her way back to Broods, but Trap will be pushing as those Broodlords are morphing, so can he get in a position to take them down? It's only 5 or 6 Broodlords as well, so it's numbers that should be manageable. I'm kind of worried that Scarlett's going to have nothing coming in from the bottom right-hand side. There's a lot of storms she has to fight right now. If she has to fight all of them from running in the same direction, that's going to suck, as these Banes, they found some okay shots. The Broodlords are here. Can these Archons and Stalkers get underneath? I kind of want to believe they can. The Banes are going to come through. They want to try and get the Stalkers more than anything, I think, because going off from the Archons, unlikely to do enough as Trap blinks in. The Broodlords are dropping down dead, but the reinforcements might just about have this. The Stalkers blinked in, so the Lings are already dealing a lot of damage, and I think Scarlett's just about going to hold again. The Archon and the Immortal lift up, and they get back away through the center of the map. Lings are still chasing. And at this point, there's really not much left apart from the couple units juggling in the War Prism. And Scarlett holds on once more. At least this time, she doesn't have to rebuild her Greater Spire after the fight. She can build back into Broodlords already if she would like to. A few more Ravagers and Banelings morphing in again as Scarlett doesn't go into the Pathogen Gland, so she's going to invest into some other tech here, basically, into the Infestors this time around. Interesting. I'm kind of intrigued as to just what she wants the Infestors for specifically. Obviously, we'll see if the Infestation Pit finishes this Pathogen Glands, whether she then wants to go into Neural, or if she really does just want, like, a couple of Fungals to try and catch some Zealots. Obviously, you can Fungal up High Templar if they get too far forward, but that's kind of... It just doesn't feel like the scenario you need some... I mean, maybe Fungal Stalkers, and then they can't blink in on top of the Broodlords, but there's also no Broodlords right now, so maybe it's a long-term plan in that regard. And Zealots already charge in. This Spine Crawler gets picked off. Lings are going to come streaming in as well as the hatchery gets taken down. Roaches and Ravagers are through to pick away at the rest of these Zealots, so all of those Zealots will get picked off. On the left side, all the Zealots from Trap are going to move back around again. Roaches and a Ravager in the middle of the map, the drones, the Banes. The two surviving Broodlords. I mean, more Broods on the way up. Does Trap want to just fight once more? For 17 minutes in game, it's getting to the point where Trap needs to somewhat think about a fifth base because main, natural, third are all on the tail ends of mining out. Obviously, a third is still healthy on the few mineral patches remaining, but it's not full mineral patches. And even that fourth base in a minute or so, you know, a couple minutes from now is going to be half patches as well. So fifth base really starts to become more essential, and obviously Scarlett has bases around the map. There's a first Fungal. Maybe really just the idea of trying to keep this army at bay for a bit longer was just the entire intention of these Infestors anyway. Storm's dropping down. Another Fungal just grabbing the Archon. Zealots in the bottom right definitely causing issues. Your Banes show up, and well, a couple of Banes that go off are just on the front Zealots, so not even that great. Adrenal Gland Lings, though, will do the job. 18 drones lost, however, before she cleaned that up, so that's a lot of losses. This Trap's still pushing through, trying to make this happen. The Infestors are going to drop their Fungals on some of these Stalkers, but now the Stalkers are already on top of the Broodlords. Here comes the Ling Roach Ravager back into this fight. The Archon's staying very far back, and I think these Archons are going to just monster mode their way through this Roach Ravager. 4 Broodlords. Oh, wow. Okay, I'm just going to say I'm incorrect. Against the Roach Ravager, maybe. I didn't think there was still 4 Broodlords alive. I really thought the Stalkers had gone down so much faster here. Just going to see our bottom right base denied, so Trap still dealing damage to Scarlett's economy, and it will now take that 5th base. As I was mentioning, we're getting to the point where we really are drying up against the base, you know, from the bases that Trap already has established in the game. Scarlett will lose this base here, so suddenly Scarlett's back on 4 bases too. What was, you know, a very comfortable 6 base a minute and a half ago is now 4 bases that she really needs 1 more for. Extra Roaches in production. We do see the probes of Trap down to the bottom side. Stalkers, Archons, and Immortals of Trap all joined up together. As we see, the Stalkers will blink through, and Roach is already taking quite a bit of damage. Well, these Stalkers are obviously dangerous, because if they can get on top of a couple of the Broodlords, then this can go very wrong very quickly here for Scarlett. So she's got to be very cautious about what these Stalkers can get done and what she lets them get done. As the Roaches push through, and they're able to chase down these Stalkers. So a lot of Stalkers being chased. The Ravagers coming across as well. This is actually nice. She actually got a few of these kills without losing much. Now the Broods are going to have to come into play. The Stalkers already blinking through. There's not really much underneath these Broodlords to kind of scare the Stalkers from blinking in on top of them. Right, there's no Banelings or anything along those lines, so yeah, Trap just comes straight underneath them. These Stalkers have 1 goal right now, and that's just to get rid of the Broods. If the Broods are dead, the Archons should really just deal with the rest of the ground army. You know, last time I said I think these Archons are just going to steamroll. They didn't, because the Broodlords were still slowing things down. This time the army really does just steamroll, and Trap is going to take game number 1. I just want to quickly bring you back. I just want to double check, because I said I think Trap expects an Overseer, so he didn't use the DTs early on in this game. What I meant with this is that when the Dark Shrine finishes, it's a long time until he really uses it, right? So when the Dark Shrine finishes now, this is when I was looking at it, and there's no Overseer ready. And then he warps in another round of Adepts instead of DTs, and this is what I meant. The lair is up, and I think he just expects an Overseer, and hence warped in another round of Adepts. Now Scar builds an Overseer, and then the DTs come in. So that was the difference. So yes, there was an Overseer when the DTs warped in, but the DTs could have been a warp in sooner. And that's just wanted to clarify what I meant there, because then the DTs did show up, and there was no. As in the bottom left-hand side, our red Protoss player who is able to eke out that first map, if only just in the end. This is Trap. Actually, a really fantastic first map of this PvZ. A really great way to start off these quarterfinals. As in the top right, our Blue Zerg player from Bravestar Gaming is Scarlett, who I really thought had this at points of the game. I think if she doesn't lose her Great Aspire in the first attack, obviously she gets Broods up, and then the game does probably end. But, yeah, then she had to wait for Broods again, and she just about got them up to defend, as that was a fun little lag spike. So yeah, kind of really ended up seeing the game drawn out. I think the big issue for Scarlett was she just couldn't keep her bases alive. She lost too many drones to the Zealot run by in a very fragile game. And losing all of that economy really meant she couldn't keep up with the trade she was making against a very efficient Protoss army. Which was pretty rough in the end, as we just have game 2. Coming up here in a couple of moments, Hatchery dropping down in the natural expansion. Let's see what happens in this game 2 as we have a hatch block coming down as well from Scarlett across the map. Skull Probe's just going to jump in on the hatch here. Zealot. Just going to pop up. And just going to see a second Zealot continuing to come out as well. Obviously, this is what you kind of force with this hatch block. Sometimes you just build kind of one Zealot and you go for like a 5 probe pull or something along those lines. As you will see the Overlord of Scarlett continuing down to the bottom left side. See what's up. A couple probes in the Zealot, or the second Zealot showing up, and this will continue into this hatchery. So hatchery going to take some big hits. Will go down in a few moments, and that would be that. Of course, this isn't expected to survive or anything. This is meant to be cancelled. What Trap? I always like the 2-gate follow-up from this, because I always feel like now you have 2 Zealots and you get 2 Adepts up, and this push across the map is very powerful, because now you force kind of a lot of Zerglings from Scarlett. And yeah, okay, your Nexus is very delayed. But I don't think that it's necessarily the worst thing in the world. Trap's even going to build 2 more Adepts, so he's really going to apply pressure across the map here. These 2 Adepts come straight through the center probe out to the right side, and an Overlord of Scarlet on the top, an Overlord of Scarlet on the bottom. As these Adepts and Zealots continue through, going to be shading forward, and the 2 Adepts go up into the main base, and we'll look to see where they can get to. Going to be seeing the 2 Zealots and 2 Adepts. Will be able to get the Queen. So Queen already picked off, and now the Adepts and Zealots coming into this just going to be continued pressure. I mean, to get a Queen kill already is pretty amazing for Trap. Trap's still not on an expansion, mind you, right? So Scarlett's doing all of this while being up a base, and Trap having a much further delayed expansion than usual. Now 2 more Adepts show up, and these Fuse Flow Zerglings are really not cutting it. Trap's still not lost a unit, actually. Oh my god. He just didn't lose a unit in the counterattack. 0 resources lost. A perfect game 2 from Trap. And the counter just does so much. This is why, see, when I usually say, oh, I like this kind of build because I always like the counter and I feel you can do a lot with it, then usually the units come across the map and they get deflected. I'm like, oh, you force units though, right? And it slows this like that. This just destroyed Scarlett. And Scarlett has absolutely nothing left there. GG's. And Trap is going to take this 2-0 to advance through to the semi-finals of the ESL Open.